Reincarnation is a fact that is corroborated in the Vedas. Samsara. One can then argue that in the Vedas it is very hard to find a clear statement concerning reincarnation.
The Vedas speaks about Punarjanam. Punar means next, Janam means birth. Even we believe in next birth. Once we die, we'll be resurrected on the day of judgment. Same thing Veda says. Punarjanam means next life. But the scholars of Hinduism, they came out with a philosophy known as Samsara. Samsara in Hinduism, it is the cycle of birth, rebirth, birth, rebirth, birth, rebirth. This is nowhere mentioned in the Veda.
Here, Dr. Zakir Naik says that in the Vedas there's no such statement that endorses reincarnation. So although we have proven that the Puranas are superior to the four Vedas, still, in order to sustain that the Vedas do speak of reincarnation, we shall first of all start by quoting the Vedas.
The word samsara does not appear in the four Vedas, but the science of reincarnation is clearly mentioned. May I clearly see or comprehend the indestructible God through sense organs. The jiva or individual soul walks through the pathways of coming called birth and departure called death. It traverses its path with its own body, and even without it, and having covered itself with its actions, good or evil, it takes birth again and again in the various planets and forms, though it is immortal by its nature. Let us understand this verse in more details. Here is clearly mentioned that the jiva, the soul, goes through birth and death and is sometimes with a gross physical body and sometimes without, such as a ghost body. Here the laws of karma are spoken of. Having performed actions with his body, the soul creates a series of reactions that he will have to suffer or enjoy in the next body created from his pious or impious actions. This verse also instructs us of a different varieties of bodies that are to be inhabited by the spirit soul on different material planets. The soul being immortal is never created. The term birth and death applies to the body made of matter. This verse is a clear summary of samsara. The immortal soul, connate with mortal matter, moves by the desire of enjoyment. Grown with the water and food, etc., it goes to the upper and lower spheres, takes birth in upper and lower modes of existence. These mortal and immortal are associated with each other since times immemorial. They go everywhere together. It is only the learned wise men who know the nature of the soul, while unenlightened know something about inanimate matter and the body made of it, but not the immortal soul. Here again the eternal nature of the soul and the temporary nature of matter are described. Taking birth in upper and lower modes means to sometimes have a demigod body, sometimes a human body, and sometimes an animal body. The soul is immortal, and it has been in contact with the material body in different forms since time immemorial. It is then stated that only the learned and wise can understand this science, whereas unenlightened men think that the living entity has taken birth with the body. Reincarnation is also mentioned in the 10th mandala, chapter 58, text 1-12. And in the Ayurveda, chapter 19, text 47. The cycle of birth and death, which is briefly mentioned in the Vedas, is explained in the Upanishads and thoroughly expanded in the Puranas. This conditioned state of the living entity is called samsara, material existence. The Katha Upanishad states, "One, however, who has no insight, who has no control over the mind and is ever impure, reaches not that goal but returns to samsara." Samsara is therefore not the invention of some pandits, but is the conditional state in which rebellious souls are put into. To get freed from this pressure of birth, death, disease, and old age, one must surrender unto the Supreme Lord, the only deliverer of material existence. He who is the support of both the unmanifested Prakriti and the Jiva, who is the Lord of the three gunas and who is the cause of bondage, existence, and liberation from samsara, is verily the creator of the universe, the knower, the inmost self of all things and their source, the omniscient Lord, the author of time, the possessor of virtues, the knower of everything. The word samsara appears more than 600 times in various Vedic scriptures. This knowledge of the living entity's cycle of birth and death is given in the four Vedas, the Upanishads, the Puranas, and indeed all Vedic scriptures. To deny this science is a sign of ignorance that puts one on the same level with animals.
In the Chandogya Upanishad, there are some verses that describes when one leaves the body, there's a specific path that he takes to go to heaven. Those verses that we're about to read follow those verses.
Having dwelt in the moon planet till the exhaustion of their pious results, they return again by the same path as they came. They come to Akasha. From akasha to air. Having become air, they become smoke. Having become smoke, they become the white cloud. Having become the white cloud, they become the rain-bearing cloud. They then fall as rain and are born in this world as rice and barley, herbs and trees, sesamum and beans. But the release from these is more difficult, for whoever eats the food and sows the seed, they become like him only. Among them, those who have good residual results of action quickly reach a good womb, the womb of a Brahmana, or of a Kshatriya, or of a Vaishya. But those who have bad residual results of action quickly reach an evil womb, the womb of a dog, or of a hog, or of a Chandala. If then, by neither of these two paths do they go, they, as small creatures, keep repeatedly revolving through birth and death. This is the third state. Therefore, the moon planet is never filled up. Hence, one should be disgusted with this state. Here we learn that heavenly existence isn't eternal. One must come back on earth and risk taking birth as a dog or even as an insect. When they have thus enjoyed heavenly sense pleasure, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, through the Vedic principles, they achieve only flickering happiness. My dear King Yudhishthira, when oblations of ghee and food grains like barley and sesame are offered in sacrifice, they turn into celestial smoke, which carries one to successively higher planetary systems like the kingdoms of Duma, Ratri, Krishna Paksha, Dakshinam, and ultimately the moon. Then, however, the performers of sacrifice descend again to earth to become herbs, creepers, vegetables, and food grains. These are eaten by different living entities and turn to semen, which is injected into female bodies. Thus, one takes birth again and again.
Some belief says that hell is eternal and heaven is also eternal. So, 100,000 billion years is but a spark of lightning compared to eternity. Another thing is that we say that the Lord is all-merciful. All-merciful means there's no limit to the mercy, but sending someone to hell for eternity clearly shows a limit. That is another contradiction.
Having gone through all the miserable hellish conditions and having passed in a regular order through the lowest forms of animal life prior to human birth, and having thus been purged of his sins, one is reborn again as a human being on this earth. The personality of Godhead said, under the supervision of the Supreme Lord and according to the result of his work, the living entity, the soul, is made to enter into the womb of a woman through the particle of male semen to assume a particular type of body.
So here again it is said that if one goes to hell, it is not for eternity. He is given another chance through birth and death, through all lower species of life, until he comes to the human life where he gets the chance again to revive his eternal relationship with God.
Any reasonable man will accept this sublime science of reincarnation, since all questions can be answered by diving one's intellect into this knowledge of the soul and the body as being two separate entities. We have thus shown the understanding of samsara to be explained throughout all Vedic scriptures. One should be intelligent enough to understand this material life as very horrible, and should only desire to go back home, back to Godhead.
We do not see, here is a Christian, here is a Muslim, here is a Hindu, here is a white man, here is a black man. No. Every living being, his duty is to understand God. This is our preaching. This is our preaching, that you are living being, you are part and parcel of Krishna. This designation that you are Hindu, you are Muslim, you are Christian, you are this, these are all designations. Actually, you are living being, part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, your main duty is to understand Krishna.
From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. We have exposed how Dr. Zakir Naik is distorting the meaning of Vedic literature in order to support his biased agenda. Such devious behavior reveals Dr. Naik to be a dishonest man who lacks social manners.